Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network.
Hi, and I'm Kai Petzelt with SAP.
Kai, great to have you here.
Well, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about some real great stuff today.
Well, you are excited to be here because you had a flight that was delayed from San Francisco, but you finally get into New England, right?
We're here and we're ready to roll.
All right, if you are new to the Customer Edge, welcome to our show. The Customer Edge is a live monthly webcast that we do in our Pulse Network studios here in Norwood, Massachusetts, and it's brought to you by SAP. But it is so much more than just a live monthly webcast. It is an entire community, and if you're part of the community, you're watching this show live on the Customer Edge. So click around and find out more about the Customer Edge community, because what it is a digital magazine, if you will, focused on helping you navigate your way through the important stuff. A conversation hub and community for providing great customer experience in sales, marketing, and customer service. It's a place where you can explore insights, information, and ideas from experts around the globe and embrace the challenge of engaging customers in a new age. And as I mentioned, this is a live monthly webcast that helps feed that community. And Kai, we are focused today on customer service, and really focused because we are going to provide five clever customer service survival tips. This is pretty important. We're gonna help people to survive in customer service, right?
There you go. If you think about it, customer service is really a key component of the overall customer engagement sort of world that we live and breathe today, right? And customer service can make a huge difference for a positive service experience, but also for a negative customer experience, right?
So why are we talking about this today? What are some of the problems that are out there going on?
So I found a recent survey where companies were interviewed about their service experience and service execution. And 80% of the companies that were interviewed said, yes, our service experience that we deliver to our customers is excellent, right? And then they went on and interviewed and surveyed the customers of those companies, and only 8% of the same companies, of the same customers said, yes, I actually did get an excellent service experience.
So
there's
four
a huge gap.
4 out of 5 companies think they're doing it well. But less than 10% of their customers say they're actually doing it well.
It's mind-boggling. It's really mind-boggling, and this is why we're here today to deliver those 5 survival tips, how to close that gap.
So let's deliver those 5 survival tips. And by the way, we encourage your involvement in this show. You can follow the hashtag on Twitter, Customer Edge, hashtag Customer Edge. On Twitter, you can tweet at us at The Pulse or at SAP CRM. We have a bunch of guests that are going to be on the show that we're going to introduce you to coming up later in the show, but let's get right to it and give you the 5 clever customer service survival tips. These are the 5 tips that we've worked on, we've come up with, and they're not the only ones, but they're 5 key tips, right, that we're talking about with people. So let's present them right now. The 5 tips are: be consistent across channels, and we're going to talk about all of these. We're going to take a break and come back and talk with our specific guests that are going to focus in some of these areas. But be consistent across channels, reduce the effort for everyone, always be proactive, be social, and teach them to fish. I feel like Jeopardy categories here, Kai. I feel like I have some money to spend. Now, while those sound obvious, let's get real detailed about them. Customer service survival tip number 1, be consistent across channels. What are we talking about?
So customer experience is key in today's day and age. Everybody, just expects top-notch customer service and customer experience, and the experience has to be consistent across any interaction channel that I choose to interact with the company, right? So that it doesn't matter whether I call a customer for support, whether I tweet about a service issue I have, whether I talk to a service person live in person, face to face. The experience has to be consistent so that the brand promise that the company gives to me is actually what they deliver against.
Okay, so be consistent across channels. In our second segment, John Carroll, the CEO of the Service Council, is going to be here, and he's going to talk more specifically about examples about this between the customer and customer service. And when you say across channels, you're talking about, the first interaction for a customer might be on Twitter, but then there might be a phone call, there might be an email. all that information within your organization has to get passed along. That's what we're talking about here.
That's
right?
exactly it. And this is very complex and very challenging for organizations. So we will talk about how this can actually be managed in a more cohesive and integrated way so that the experience that the customers expect is actually what companies deliver.
All right, tip number 2, clever customer survival tip number 2, reduce the effort for everyone. What do we mean by this one?
So customer service is a pain. Right? Whenever there's an issue, I reach out to customer service. And I, as a consumer, as a customer, just want to get things resolved as quickly as possible, as easy as possible, and as effortless as possible, so that I can move on with my life. Right? So that at the end of the day, a customer service experience has to be as easy as possible so that I have a positive service experience. That's number 1. Number 2 is the service experience also has to be easy and effortless and simple for the agent as well, so that he or she can deliver this pleasant customer service experience at the end of the day. So,
and again, from that stat you gave off the top, that less than 10% of customers say that these companies that 4 out of 5 think they're doing it well aren't doing it well. Why aren't they being easy and effective in what they're doing?
It's probably because it's complex to do business with those companies. It's probably because they have to repeat their issues over and over again. We all know this, right? When we call a service hotline and we're being transferred from agent A to B to C, we always have to repeat our issue, have to repeat our customer number, our service interaction history, and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't make it easy. It makes it complex. And this is why those customers state, no, my experience was not where it's supposed to be.
All right, in our third segment, we're going to be joined by Bill Ziska, Director of Deloitte Digital, or a Director at Deloitte Digital, and he's going to weigh in specifically on reducing the effort for everyone in that segment. All right, our third customer service, I keep forgetting the word clever. Our third clever customer service survival tip is always be proactive. Let's be honest, we started this one by saying stop being reactive.
Yeah.
But then we made it more positive, always be proactive. Sounds obvious, but as a customer service survival tip, what do you mean always be proactive?
So customer service for the longest time has been reactive, quite frankly, has been a firefighting sort of arm of the organization. Whenever something went wrong, customer service came into play. That's table stakes. Everybody does that, more or less, good or bad. But a clever customer service tip is really to turn your service organization around and make it proactive so that you can have things fixed before they bubble up, so that you can have a machine maintained before it breaks down, so that you can have a component replaced before the issue arises and a huge problem arises.
And again, for companies, we're talking about human to human when we're being proactive, but also machine to machine, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in this day and age of Internet of Things, where everything is equipped with sensors, this is the time now for machines to send out signals. Hello, I'm about to break down, please help me, right? And this happens before the machine breaks down so that you can reduce or minimize downtimes and can maximize the output of the machines that you're paying for.
And again, while this sounds so obvious, always be proactive as a customer service survival tip. To me, this is a key one because I would think that a lot of people that have been in customer service for a long time sort of have grown up being reactive because customer service for years has been a reactive process. So being proactive, is it a change of mindset for people?
It absolutely is a change of mindset for people so that they don't just lean back and wait for the next call to come in from a customer who has an issue, but really turning that experience around and helping customers to be successful right before the problem bubbles up is really what can make a difference.
And in our last segment today, we're going to be joined by Chris Franco, who is the manager of customer support for Yaskawa. And Chris is going to be in there to talk about that tip and actually talk about almost all of our tips here. All right, clever customer service. I remembered clever this time. Customer service survival tip number 4 is be social. We all live on social media these days, but when it comes to customer service, in our fourth segment, we are going to be joined by Brad Blake, who is the VP of social media for Hill Holiday here in Boston, and he specializes in social. But when we talk about be social for customer service, again, Be specific, Kai. What are we talking about
Right.
here?
So social is no longer just a medium for me to tweet, how well my breakfast was, or, why my kids are going to school and whatnot.
Well,
So
it still is.
it still is. It certainly still is. But if you think about it, there are 500 million tweets each and every day.
Right.
And there is so much content and material for customer service interactions, you would have no idea. Everybody who uses social media has an audience to share positive experiences, but also has an audience to share negative experiences. And tapping into that excessive amount of data and information, right, by means of social media interactions, can really set your company apart when it comes to service interactions and the customer experience.
And I think all companies know this today, but I always quote this. There's a Greg Verdino, who I follow on Twitter all the time, who I love, has one of his books. He has a great line where he says the difference today is that everyone in the audience has an audience. And for a customer service perspective, you bring up a good point. Everyone that has an issue also has an audience. So you have an advantage of taking a critic and turning them into an advocate, don't you?
Exactly. And that can be, first of all, in order to address negative issues, but also secondly, perhaps more importantly so, you can also amplify positive service experience that a customer might have had with your company.
All right, and again, Brad Blake from Hill Holiday is going to join us in studio in one of our later segments to talk about being social as that fourth survival tip. Our fifth and final clever customer service survival tip is teach them to fish. I think you all know the old saying, if you give someone a fish for a day, you feed them, but if you teach them how to fish, you teach them how to eat for a lifetime. What does this specifically pertain to when it comes to customer service? Teach them to fish.
I really love that analogy because it really goes to tell that, customer service can be a medium where we teach our customers, right, how to help themselves, so that they don't have to reach out to support for easy questions that they might be able to resolve themselves if and when they find the right knowledge, maybe online or in help forums or on peer-to-peer communities and these kinds of things. And studies really show that customers want to be able to help themselves so that they're not so dependent anymore on that 1-800 call helpline where they may be in line for 20 minutes in order just to get an easy answer to that question.
Now again, before we take the first break, when it comes to teaching them to fish, I would think there's a fine line with this. I'm interested to hear how Chris from Yaskawa does it with them. I'm interested to hear from John and others about this one, teach them how to fish, because the fine line to me would be, if I'm a customer, I don't want to do too much work myself. Yeah. But yet if you teach me how to do it and it's a pleasant experience for me, you might have a customer for life. That's the fine line, isn't it?
It has to be a pleasant experience, it has to be an easy experience, and it always has to be an additional channel, an additional offer that you put out there for your customers. Not everybody really wants to do service on a self-help portal, but it has to be an additional offering so that if and when you choose to try to resolve the issue yourself, that you have the option to do so.
All right, so there you have it, our 5 clever customer service survival tips. Let's go over them one more time before we take our first break and bring in John Carroll, the CEO of the Service Council. Here they are. Be consistent across channels, reduce the effort for everyone, always be proactive, be social, and teach them to fish. Those are our 5 clever customer service survival tips brought to you by the Customer Edge, sponsored by SAP. Let's take our first break on this edition of the Customer Edge. And as we take this break, you're going to hear from Terrence Chisiri, who is the head of product management for SAP. We talked with Terrence recently at a CRM Insider event in Las Vegas. And here's Terrence with some specific thoughts about customer service. We're back with more on the Customer Edge. Let's talk about customer service in general. Paint a picture about customer service today in this day and age with the power that consumers have.
That's a great question. The power of consumers is really revealed for me in the realm of social media, right? So when we started this journey for customer service in SAP a few years ago, for the cloud specifically, we looked at what was the most disruptive element to the customer service area, and it was customers expressing frustration, leaving traditional communication methods and going to social media to vent, to communicate, to warn others of any poor experiences that they've had to that point. And brands suddenly had to react and realize that while marketing may have been the one that planted the flag and said, we have a presence and we're going to promote the brand and raise awareness and drive people to become customers, customer service is really where the brand was built or retained its position if they were able to recover from these points. And then it led into this larger topic of customer engagement and customer experience, which is, let's make sure we have a coherent process across the entire life cycle.
Let's talk about the opportunities considering that power, that real-time engagement with customers, now customers' expectations and what they demand. While there are great challenges, there are also great opportunities for customer service nowadays that were never there before, aren't there?
Exactly. So the challenges, to extend that a little bit from the previous comment, the challenges for customer service from customers are they expect them to be proactive. They expect organizations to anticipate their needs. They expect them to be where they are. And the opportunity now is you need to be a omni-channel organization, not just in your selling, but in your servicing. So at any point where a customer initiates a conversation, you need to be there, and you need to be able to seamlessly switch to any other point of contact or communication. So they may start on social media, transition to phone, go back to traditional email, or even chat, or a website, any of the above. You should be able to paint that thread across all those communication points. And to truly differentiate yourself, you can start to be proactive and anticipate when a customer is going to have a need, or when the customer reaching out for you, actually have an awareness of what the next best thing you should recommend or do to serve them.